Hey everyone, welcome to Beauty, Brains, and Bullshit.
Podcast where we're diving deep into the world of beauty, uncovering the brains behind the industry, and cutting through the bullshit that holds us back.
This is a space for raw conversations, powerful insights, and a touch of sass, all brought to you by women who know what they want, aren't afraid to go after it, and refuse to settle for anything less than real. So tune in, get inspired, and join us as we bring you a little beauty, a lot of brains, and just enough bullshit to keep things interesting. So we are happy and excited. We are joined today with Ashley Evan, and we are going to touch on her story on what's going on in her life. And something that a lot of us don't talk about in the industry is our health, I feel like. And Ashley, unfortunately, has experienced a lot of things that have to do with your female parts, I guess we could say. But I also just feel like we don't talk about health enough in this industry and how we have to fight to get through things, how some of us don't have insurance because we're in the beauty industry, or we need help with those things. So here is Ashley. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, and I'm happy to share my story. So thank you for asking and inviting me.
Absolutely. I'm really happy that Medigma sent you our way. She reached out to me and she was like, I have the perfect person for you to connect with. And so I want you to tell our guests a little bit about the backstory and what's going on.
So my name is Ashley Evan. I have been doing lashes for 20 years. I've been in the beauty industry for over 24 years, something like that. It's been a very long time. But I have sat behind a chair for a long time with long, grueling hours trying to funnel people in, make a living, and make it work. Aside from the other, hats that we wear as entrepreneurs. I have been an entrepreneur since I was 14 years old. I started my own company, and it was a retail store. And that was when raves were all the rave. And so if you're old enough and you know about raves, it was a time, and it was a good time. But I had a store that had all kinds of things for that. But anyhow, so yeah, being an entrepreneur has always been a part of who I am, sort of my makeup. What we aren't taught in the world of entrepreneurship is how to really take care of yourself. We're taught how to hustle. We're taught how to hustle and grind and, be booked and busy and blessed and all the things. But the real blessing is when you can actually carve out time freedom is really where we need to start introducing into our industry, even as lash practitioners or artists, even as estheticians or who practice facials. We need to practice more self-care. We're so busy caring for others all the time and being available to our clients that we forget to take a moment for ourselves. And in doing so, and now this is, we're getting to sort of my health. I have struggled with years with IBS. That's also part of it's sort of my own makeup, but also not really realizing that I wasn't eating for my body. I wasn't I wasn't moving for my body. These types of things. So the IBS, your gut is central to everything. We often think it's our mind or our brain, but yes, that helps. But when our gut is off, our body is off, and as well as our brain. So our mind is off too. So we forget to think about ourselves. We forget to think about the things that are important that keeps us thriving and going. So I struggled with food for a very long time, and the matter of not moving enough, the matter of eating poorly or sporadically, just, in this industry, I was having heavier periods, and those heavier periods started producing other symptoms and issues in and of itself on its own, the heavy periods. But I was also forcing myself to work while I was having these heavy periods, these crampings, these issues, these symptoms. Anyway, it was yeah, you know what it is. You've lived through it before. You'll be fine. So you just keep trucking along, doing the things, all the things, taking care of, your husband, or taking care of your household, or taking care of your kids, taking care of the dog,
Everyone else but you.
The wellness of the business. And something that later came about was fibroids. Because I was eating right, my estrogen levels were out of whack. And then also I have actually just learned, and I'll share with you in a minute, but not enough vitamins or minerals. So if you're lacking in vitamins and minerals, it's going to affect your reproductive system in a massive way. For women, we are very delicate beings. A lot of people would like to say that we're strong. We are. We're resilient. We're all those wonderful things, and we are Wonder Women, but we are also delicate in our whole system. If one vitamin is off, it's going to affect the overall performance of our reproductive system, which is also going to affect the performance of all the other systems in our body. If you have a chronic illness, your body is going to slow down because it's trying to work out the thing that's causing the issue. And then you're on top of it saying, body, I need you to work. I need you to stay, with lots of energy. I need you to do this or that. The other thing, I have duties, I have tasks. You have to keep going. And thank God for our bodies because they keep going. So I do take moments, especially now, to just say, thank you, body. I love you, body. And I'm sorry, body, that I didn't give you what you needed when you needed it. But I'm here and I'm listening totally now. So with the fibroids, I've had a surgery before. They had pretty big, but what I was dealing with more than anything was a lot of bleeding. Just in random times, I'd be walking through the grocery store and all of a sudden it was a rush to the bathroom. So I had learned, because this is my way of life now, I had learned to start carrying bigger purses. And my bigger purses had another pair of pants, another pair of underwear, and a little pouch. I'll show you guys. A little pouch, something like this. I mean, there's been variations over the many years, but that have emergency packs. So there's thick pads, wipies, Clorox wipes, gloves if I need it, all those things in a pack like this, in that big duffel bag, a purse. It had gotten to the point where that was too much. So I talked to my OBGYN and she was like, oh, you're just going to have a myomectomy. So I had one, and that was several years ago. And she was like, it's not a big deal. It's fine. Like lots of women have, especially Black women or women that are of Black descent or somewhere along the bloodline, tend to have more fibroids than other groups, demographics. And I said, oh, okay. I was in a very interesting point in my life at that point. It was a lot of negative energy, negative marriage, negative energy, and still running a business and trying to figure out all the things that go on with that. So I think I was also harboring a lot of negative energy in the sacral area, which I'll touch on some of that a little bit later too. So I had the surgery. It was fine. Everything came out fine. They had to reconstruct my fallopian tube because it had impinged it so much that it started to, she said, fuse together, but it wasn't actually fusing. It just was like distorted a lot. So she had to like reshape it. And I said, okay, maybe I'll have kids, maybe one day. Subsequently, that marriage ended, and then I was single for some time, but I was fine for a little while, and then it started to come back. And I had like 2, and they were very small. And I said, I am going to do everything I can to get rid of these fibroids and figure out a way, in a naturopathic sort of way, in a holistic way, to combat these. So, and I changed my diet so extremely that it was so strict that I had no sugar, no bread, which is where I learned that I was actually allergic to gluten. So thank God for that. Yeah. But all those years I was living with a gluten allergy and I had no idea. And I was always a sickly kid, and I was like, why am I always so sick? It's because I was actually having this constant overload. So if you can imagine, so you're dealing with all these things, eating poorly, or if at all, and then so
your body's like, what is going on?
Yes, it was just complete system overload. What are you doing, lady? So once I changed the diet, things changed. And those fibroids that I did have that were smaller, but they were there, went away. The problem with that is I wanted to live my life in that if I was at Disneyland and I wanted a churro, I could have one. If I was at a family gathering and there were desserts, I could have some. Whereas before I was so restricted, I was like, I can't have that. And that's not necessarily a good quality of life either. If you're not being able to enjoy yourself at functions, at things, or out at, a theme park, So cut to, I still had very, 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 very heavy periods. And I decided that I was going to start on Mirena. So there's several options. Lots of people talk to their doctors about these options. For me, that was what we thought was the best for me. So did Mirena. And even through Mirena, they were like, you're not going to have a period much at all. In those 5 years that I had it, I had a period every single month. It wasn't as heavy, which was it was a win for me, but I was still bleeding every single month where I was supposed to not be at all. I then at one point was like, I really feel like I need to, I don't know, something in my body just was like, take this thing out, don't do it again. And I did. And your body coming back from all of that is rough. Something else, most of us don't talk about. So it got to the point where I didn't work then for about a month because I was bleeding for about 2 months straight. And then finally it kind of regulated a little bit once I discovered more in depth what Ayurveda is, Ayurvedic medicine. Then I started going to school for Ayurveda. Had always felt pulled or sort of a calling to connect with this ancient medicine system. So I did and started taking various herbs that diminished and kept my periods very regular. And so regular, and for me, a win is if I'm not having to, again, carry bags of extra clothing and extra protection in my car or with me on my person at all times. Mm-hmm. So I didn't have to do that so much. It did get to the point where I was having extra towels in the car in case I had to cover the seats. Yeah. It was that intense and that heavy all the time, in which, I didn't think about it. I was really tired and exhausted, and I didn't think about it then. It didn't even occur to me that I was anemic due to all of that bleeding and such. So I finally went and got some help, and immediately they told me you need to have a hysterectomy. And this was 34 years old. And I was like, I'm 34. I have a good uterus. Even my fallopian tube was just reconstructed. What's
going on?
I should have the ability. And they were like, well, then get pregnant, because then your fibroids will go away and everything will kind of regulate itself.
Wow.
The Western medicine they're great for immediate and emergent situations. When it comes to long-term chronic issues such as this, especially reproductive issues, we don't have enough support and we don't have enough resources. So I talked with my doctors, and I said, I don't feel comfortable. And actually, my boyfriend, who's now my fiance at the time, he was like, I really want to come to the appointment with you, that particular appointment, because I really, really feel like I should be there to support you.
Good.
My first marriage was not like that. But this guy, I was like, oh, he's a keeper, right? So as soon as
absolutely
right. So as soon as he said that, the doctor had said that, also a female doctor who is Latina, she says this, and my fiance goes, we need to leave. And I looked at her and I said, no, thank you. I'm not having a hysterectomy. I'm going to research other ways. Mm-hmm. So that's where I really started diving even deeper into Ayurveda. And it wasn't enough because what came about just during COVID, they came back even bigger. And it came back fast, the fibroids. The fibroids finally came and I felt it. And I said, oh, that's weird. But it's so big. I could really feel it and move around if I pushed it. And over COVID, up until this year, 2024, I still had regular periods, but I was having so much more pain, so much more what I thought was bloating. And it wasn't that it was bloating so much as the fibroids, the tumors. So fibroids are uterine tumors. Mm-hmm. So they're non-cancerous, but they still cause issues. They have their own blood supply. So, blood still is fed to it, and so it grows. So these fibroids just grew so fast and so big that, one, it was taking blood from me. Two, and I was severely anemic. So I ended up having to have blood transfusions, and it took me a year. So from 2023 to this year, it took me a year to actually get to the point where I was like, I'm okay with having a hysterectomy. I'm going to be 40. If God was going to give me kids, it would have happened. And maybe what I had intuitively said years ago when I was 15 that I would adopt, maybe that really was where I'm supposed to be, is adopting a child versus birthing a child. And so I had to come to terms with all of that. I mean, it was big. It was a big deal.
Yeah, that's hard.
And so I said, okay, fine. We can do the hysterectomy and we can do, the myomectomy that comes with it. I would say right after that decision was made, about a month. So that was June of 2024. We had said, okay, we're going to do this. It's probably going to look like October of 2024. Okay, cool. July hit and I was working and I just didn't feel well. Like I've never really felt well,
Yeah.
but I really, for my baseline, what I was used to all of these years, it was even below that.
Wow.
And I said something's off. And then 2 days later, I was in the most excruciating pain. I thought that I was actually giving birth. I don't know what I was giving birth to. I just felt like I was giving birth to something. And I was on my hands and knees. The doctors didn't know how to help me. They were like, you can take some Vicodin. And I was like, I'm telling you, it's not working. Well, you can take some, I don't know, ibuprofen. And I'm like, I'm allergic to NSAIDs. Sorry. Like, I can't take those. They were like, well, you can take Tylenol. I said, I'm telling you, nothing is working. In a week, I went from being kind of like malaise, and lethargic to in such excruciating pain that I was in the emergency room 4 times in 5 days. And they were like, we don't know what to do every time. And then there was one emergency room that I had finally gone to. I was like, I'm just going to go to the really fancy one. There's several emergency rooms where we live, but there's one fancy one. And that's in Newport Beach. So I went to that location and they were like, we'll help you. They gave me a lot of meds, some pretty heavy hitters, but just enough so that I could actually sleep because I hadn't slept that entire week. I hadn't slept by the time I got there in 7 days, maybe 20 minutes here, maybe 20 minutes there, but I just hadn't slept. They wouldn't do anything for surgery. They're like, you're already sort of planned for surgery. So you're not going to have surgery, even like in the emergency room. You're just going to have to wait. You're just going to have to write it out and you're just going to have to wait. And they said, by the way, you're too weak to work and you're too weak to drive. So you're not going to be able to drive or lift anything or work. And I said, well, if I don't work, I don't have income because my income is contingent upon me sitting behind a chair servicing people. So what do I do? And you're like, well, we'll fill out some paperwork for you to apply for. There was one emergency room that I had finally gone to. I was like, I'm just going to go to the really fancy one. There's several emergency rooms where we live, but there's one fancy one and that's in Newport Beach. So I went to that location and they were like, we'll help you. They gave me a lot of meds, some pretty heavy hitters, but just enough so that I could actually sleep because I hadn't slept that entire week. I hadn't slept by the time I got there in 7 days, maybe 20 minutes here, maybe 20 minutes there, but I just hadn't slept. They wouldn't do anything for surgery. They're like, you're already sort of planned for surgery. So you're not going to have surgery, even like in the emergency room. You're just going to have to wait. You're just going to have to write it out and you're just going to have to wait. And they said, by the way, you're too weak to work and you're too weak to drive. So you're not going to be able to drive or lift anything or work. And I said, well, if I don't work, I don't have income because my income is contingent upon me sitting behind a chair servicing people. So what do I do? And you're like, well, we'll fill out some paperwork for you to apply for. And that's what we don't necessarily talk about very often either as service providers is that if we aren't behind a chair or servicing our client, then we are losing out on income. However, if we have built out our business so that way we could also have supplies and product that kind of helps supplement. Anyhow, so they told me we're going to fill out some forms for you to help approve you for disability. So I said, okay, I've never had asked for this kind of thing before, but we're going to go and we're going to do this. And it's going to be fine, Ash, like just coaching myself all the way through it because a lot of times you have to coach yourself through a lot of these things. So, and I'm always forever coaching myself. I'm like, you got this. You could do this. It's fine. So I applied and was denied. And I said, okay, well, let me go ahead and call and make an appointment and like state my case and see what happens. Maybe there's other resources that I'm not aware of. So I applied for other resources and even just like food stamps. Went through the interviewing process and everything and they said, you're denied. because you have a car that is paid off, it's worth something. And so therefore it's an asset, and so you are awarded nothing. As far as disability is concerned, you didn't pay enough into the bucket for us to give you anything while you're on this sort of sabbatical. He said, okay. So I have nothing, no money coming in. My fiance is now taking over all of our bills, including my work bills, because I still had bills. I still had a lease. I had all these things going on, and I had to call the property manager and discuss with them what was going on. And they were like, okay, well, to break your lease, it'll be $4,000 on top of like what you are now already owing. So that's $5,000. And then your other expenditures, like your website, your Zoom, your credit card companies that you use, like they all require payment. And then your credit cards. So I called the credit card companies and I was like, look, like July 17th almost took me off the face of this earth. I am trying and I have barely any money to pay you guys. The money that I, thank God, had made right before all this went down is dwindling, and it's dwindling quickly because I'm trying to pay all of you guys. And I actually don't know how I'm going to have enough to sustain me for groceries, at the very least. Mm-hmm. So the next option was you can apply for government. So there's your state or county disability, and then there's federal disability, right? So that's the SSDI. I was told as I was applying, because I called, at this point, everybody wants to do everything online. Everything's electronic. You just fill out a form, you send it in, and you wait to hear. I'm still of this whole mindset. If I don't know what the heck is going on, I'm going to dial up the phone and try to reach someone. So I got on the phone and I called, and they were like, it's about 6 months before there's any type of like review of an application, let alone a granting of any type of funding. And I was like, what do I do? What do I do? I have the surgery in October that they said could be 10 weeks, but most likely it's going to be like 6 to 8 weeks. So just bank on 6 to 8 weeks of recovery and you'll be fine. So that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping for the least amount of time down so I can get my butt back to work. And well, surgery date comes and it doesn't go as planned. We had decided that it was going to be a laparoscopic surgery, which is robotic. So they go in through your belly button, they have a camera, and then they have like 4 other machine arms that kind of go in and snip away and, kind of remove. As soon as they put in I guess it would be like the the camera into the belly button, the surgeon was like, there was no room to do what we had to do. I couldn't see anything. And because of the fundus, so the fundus, if anyone has been pregnant, they usually measure your belly from like the top of it to the pelvic bone. That was still too big. This fibroid had grown above and beyond my belly button, so it was pushing up into my upper organs, so like to the liver. And so the surgeon said we couldn't go in cesarean style. We had to go in the way that we went in, which is they cut me from my navel to my pelvic bone and entered me that way and to extract everything. It was I actually had a good cry about it recently because I didn't realize the magnitude of trauma that puts on the body. And even the psyche, whether you're thinking about it or not, it's still subconscious on the psyche, that type of trauma. So I had a good cry about it. I think what I cried most about was not that I gave my uterus up. What I cried most about, and it wasn't because, that's not fair, they cut me in the way I didn't want them to cut me. That was hard. That was hard. And I had to just give myself some grace there and have like radical compassion that it was hard, yes, but girlfriend, you made it through. It wasn't a pleasant 6 hours after surgery. The 6 hours after surgery, actually the first 12 hours after surgery, I also thought they were trying to torture me to death. It's like they're trying to kill me. I need meds. I need something. I want to sleep. At any rate, recovery has been really interesting in that you take steps forward, but you certainly take steps back. I am a strong-willed person. I'm used to and I'm also hyper independent, which could be a flaw, but I appreciate that about myself. So I really try, if I need to do something, I want to do it myself. I've always been that way. I can remember. So I've had to be told several times to sit down, stop it, put your hands down, stop grabbing things.
Yeah, let me do it for you.
Right. I've had to have a lot of that over the past. So it's a humbling experience in that you have to learn how to just release, and you have to learn how to rest.
Mm-hmm. Heal. You have to heal.
You have to learn how to heal.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something else I've never really done. Even what I would consider old griefs, right? Grievances and grief. That's coming up. But it's only coming up because I never actually took that time to grieve and to heal with that process of grieving. Mm-hmm. It's been very interesting. They did do an autopsy, or they did do a pathology report on what they extracted. Mm-hmm. And the fibroid that was the biggest, the one that almost took me out, actually, when they cut into it, they said that it was necrotic on the inside. So it started to die off on the inside. It still had blood vessels on the outside, which is why there were new tumors that were growing on the outside of it. But the inside of that massive one that was about the size of a cantaloupe was necrotic on the inside. So if I had waited any longer, if anything had happened in a negative way, there could have been sepsis. Mm-hmm. And I could also not be here. So I'm just really grateful that I was carried through all that. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's a lot for your whole body to take, your mind, your body, your spirit, everything takes all of that. And so how long has it been since your surgery?
What question? It has been, October, let me pull up the calendar. October 17th. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Tomorrow will be 7 weeks. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. How are you feeling?
Today I feel good. Emotionally, I'm a nervous wreck. Cause I'm okay, so do I start working again? I can't lug a bed to save my life. And I did a lot of my services were in-home. I had transitioned to in-home services because a lot of my clients ended up becoming big name and A-list people. So they prefer to be in their homes, which is totally understandable. Privacy is key, but it was a lot of work on my body. So I was doing a lot. I don't know if I'm going to be able to, or even if I'm interested, to be completely honest, to lug a bed anymore, anywhere, whether it be in a car or out of a car, from room to room. I just don't know where I'm at anymore with that. Physically, I'm still coming off of, I didn't even mention, they put me into medical menopause. So I'm still coming off of those drugs. Mm-hmm. And that's been an experience because you really don't sleep. God bless all the women who have gone through menopause and have come on the other side of it, because
Heidi knows all about it. Look at her laughing.
Sleep? What is sleep? I take
what
naps.
Is sleep? Right.
Naps.
God bless you, because, and it's on my drive to my best friend's today, I said, I woke up about 4 times this morning. Maybe I should just stay my butt up. Right. And then I was okay, a lot of times I loved driving. And that was the other thing too. Driving to clients, people be why do you drive? That's crazy. And I'm it's like meditation for me. I sit and I'm in meditation. I'm just talking to God and the angels. And I'm just
you're in your own world space.
In my own world. What are we talking about? What are we doing? How are we navigating? And so this morning as I was driving, I said, okay, is this also a sign from you that I need to just sit when I wake up after my hot flash? When I wake up and I'm up, to just sit and pray and just talk with you, or just be. And I just felt in my body yeah, just do that. Mm-hmm. That's going to be my new thing, because getting back to sleep is, it's almost what's the point? And then when you finally get there, your alarm goes off.
Yeah.
So I just like, I give up. I give up.
Yeah. Heidi knows all about it. We always get texts from her in the middle of the night, and I'm like, Heidi's up.
Well, it's not nice that there's a time difference, because when she sends texts, I'll go to sleep early because I'm up in the middle of the night. So all these texts, I'll get this flood of texts and I'll wake up to it. And then it's like 3:00 in the morning and I'm responding to all of the, sometimes it's good. Sometimes it's like only midnight and I can still get a response from her, but like usually it's in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
And menopause
I'm not hearing from her. Go ahead.
I was going to say menopause is no fun. I did want to comment though, listening to your story. I think that like for me, I'm super grateful for you that you have such a spiritual base to rely on and guide you through it, as well as it sounds like you have a great partner. And that's just huge in the whole process of trying to like overcome something like that. And it's more than what some people have. So like that is, I'm so happy for you that you have that, because it can be a very lonely time as well.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, I have to say, even with me being so deeply like spiritually rooted, I did feel lonely a lot of times. You know, the only thing, I was talking to my fiance about this, and he was like, I don't know how you feel. I can just be sympathetic to what you're going through and support you the best I can, which is huge for me. I mean, yes, to have a partner that's like that open and emotionally intelligent and also just grounded is huge. But even with that, I mean, there were moments where I just felt so alone. And the way that some of even the city workers or the county workers talk to you, it's appalling. I had to tell one woman, I said, excuse me. I said, I don't know your life, but you're assuming you know mine just by the way that you're talking to me. I've never had to reach out for help like this before. This has never happened to me. I've always been able to hustle up something, and I can't even, and I'm not even allowed to hustle up anything right now. So if you could just, I don't know, take a step back, take a breather, do what you need to do, and then come back onto the phone with me so that way we can get this whole ordeal taken care of. That'd be really great. I said, but right now I can't even handle what's going on with my own self and my own body. And then to sit here and take this type of verbal, it's abusive. Mm-hmm. And she took a moment and she was like, oh, well, she changed her tune, but at the end of the call, I was like, girl.
Because you spoke to her with some intelligence.
Yeah.
They expected you not to.
Mm-hmm.
I remember asking for help with daycare, and I was sitting in the office, and this woman was being so nasty to me. My son crawled under the seat in the chair next to me, and I looked at her and I said, this is not a career path for me. Like, I'm not trying to like make a living off of this. Is merely a stepping stone in which I'm entitled to.
Right.
So, yeah.
And that too.
Yeah.
They treat you like as though you're not entitled to the things that you actually pay into.
Right.
I pay into these services, so I deserve to extract from it what I need when I need it.
Have you applied for like the Obamacare or the marketplace insurance or anything like that? I mean, I don't know where you're located, but
definitely we have Obamacare or California covered here. So I do have health insurance. Thank God. Yeah, as far as like the resources for, I'm just sorry. Newsflash, having a hot flash. I applying for, we all pay into Social Security, whether it's at the beginning of the, or with each paycheck that you pay yourself, or at the end of the year when you pay your taxes, that's what you pay into, or quarterly if you're even bigger, right? If you're paying more money, it's quarterly. So yeah, I just didn't pay enough into it because of last year. Last year was not a great time financially. I think that's when we started seeing the decline of people doing services. They're starting to cut back. And then this year more so, they're really starting to cut back. It's like, what do you cut back on? Your nails or the things that you would, there's some things where people are like, no, but lashes were kind of one of the first things here. And I was able to kind of sustain myself with my A-list, clients, but with the everyday mamas, they were like, I got to cut back somewhere. And lashes is one thing I got to cut back on. So,
well, that's something that's like, I think very important that you brought to the foresight of people is that getting into this industry as a lash artist and jumping in as an entrepreneur, I personally don't know much about taxes or Social Security, or especially when I started, what I'm paying into, what I need. If something were to happen, am I covered? And it's definitely, thank you so much for bringing awareness to this, because all of you young women out there that are jumping in head first, thinking that you have nothing but income generated, please do your research. Please talk to your CPA. Please put money aside for things like this that may happen, because unfortunately, as entrepreneurs, we're not covered with things like this. We're not taken care of. And unfortunately, at this point, you're kind of paying for that. And that's awful.
And some of the fault is really on me, because I went in 2022, 23, like just like the end of the year into 2023. I was like, okay, doing really well. Time to expand. I have some extra money and I'm going to get a second room. So I had 2 rooms in this beautiful suite and was operating out of both of them. Even took on someone who was renting the space as well with the second room. So that really worked out. My first room, somebody else was renting too. But then and they did different practices. One was a Reiki healer. The other one was, a naturopathic doctor. Yeah. So that's what they did. And then he abruptly left because he had to move. His mom passed away or something really sudden happened. And then she had to move because her father on the other side of the country had fallen ill. So then I was left with 2 rooms, trying to rent out, trying to do these things, and also like build more business. That fault was really on me, because a lot of my savings that I did that would have sustained me for this year. Had this happened last year, I would have been fine. But yeah, a lot of that got eaten up. A lot of that savings went away. So
that's not on you. You were being an entrepreneur. You were trying to grow your business. You were trying to do what you thought, what you were supposed to do. How would you ever know that something like this was going to happen? You need to give yourself a little bit of grace.
And I was going to say, honestly, it can happen like that. Last year in 2023, I had 6 surgeries. And it required almost 4 months of downtime. And between August and December of 2023, I spent over $12,000 on medical bills. That wasn't my household bills, my studio bills, nothing. That was just healthcare costs. Now it's the end of 2024 and I'm still trying to get back onto my feet. So it's so much easier to drop. And it's so much harder to get back up. I mean,
yeah.
And with the economy, I mean, last year I thought I was putting all the blame on myself too. I'm like, oh, you're sick. You've had to have this surgery. You've had to take this time off. I mean, it was so hard to put myself first and say, no, this is the best thing for you to do right now. So you can be the best version of yourself so you can get past this. Knowing that I was going to take all these hits in my business and thinking that, well, I'll just come back, after the first of the year, I got this.
Yeah.
It hasn't been that easy. And it wasn't just me. It was like a multitude of things that all happened at one time. It was like the perfect storm.
Yeah. And thank you both for saying that. All of you for saying that too. And it is true. Like, I mean, we do, and maybe that's like the crux of being an entrepreneur too. Right? Is you do place a lot of blame on yourself because you're the one that makes all the decisions. But it's true. Like, how was I to know that his mom would pass away? Or how was I to know that her mother or her father would fall ill? Like,
those are things out of your control.
Right. It's completely out of our control. And we just have to take it in stride. So that's what I've been doing in my stride because I don't have enough to do. Mm-hmm. So me taking it in stride was me going back to school. And so I was in school last year. This year, and then I start my doctor program in January. So thank you. So yeah, I'm getting through all of this witnessing of Western medicine. I really feel a strong call to be someone who shows up for women, especially and particularly in the holistic medicine. So I'm going back to school, to get my doctorates in Chinese medicine and acupuncture. So right now I'm a certified practitioner of Ayurvedic medicine. So I'm able to help people in a multitude of ways via Zoom and things like that. But pretty soon I'll be helping more people with Chinese medicine.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So it
Thank
sounds
you.
like God did have a plan for you.
Yeah, everything happens in the right time, at the right, yeah.
Yeah.
Where you're at right now doing what you feel is your calling. So
You were given time right now to focus on your studies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You're so right, Heidi. Yeah.
And you have to always find that little silver lining in something like that. I mean, I feel like I got knocked down so hard last year. So hard. But I'm like, nope, something good's going to come from it. I just keep waiting. No, actually, this is the good. This is such a reward to be a part of this group and be a part of all of this, that it makes all of everything that I've been through worth it. So just know that it all comes back.
Well, thank you for sharing your story too with me. And it does just go to show that we aren't all alone in the things that we're working through and sort of journeying, right? We are really all interconnected and we're all experiencing something heavy, whether it's seen or unseen, we're all experiencing something. So if anything, this has also taught me to be more of a steward of community and cultivating and creating spaces that really hold people together, to let them know that they're not alone, that, it might not be to the same magnitude as like Heidi has gone through, but we both experienced some heavy crap in this last couple of years. And so, yeah, there were moments of loneliness. Yeah, there were moments of overwhelm. There were moments of just desperation, right? Because you just feel despair at some points. But then there's also moments like this where we come together and you're like, oh gosh, I do have a community. And, like a community is 2 or more people. It doesn't have to be massive people. It could just be, 4 people right here. There's a community right here. So thank you.
Absolutely. We're so happy that you joined us today. Like, I'm so happy that you shared your story and you were brave enough to share your story, because just as you said, it's so lonely. And I understand that feeling of loneliness when you're going through things. And what we don't realize is if we just talked about it a little bit more, we wouldn't be so lonely. It's just finding those people that understand and you can connect to. Mm-hmm. And also, just as women, we naturally just empathize and feel your pain. Like you were talking about, like you had your fiance, but a man can't feel your pain. He can empathize, he can sympathize, but he can't feel what we feel.
Right.
And even though maybe we didn't feel yours to that extent, we all have female parts. We all understand what that monthly cycle is going. We understand to the extent of when it's really bad too. And I had previous stuff when I was younger too, so I get it. It's extremely lonely to go through it unless you have somebody to talk with you through it.
It's a shame too that there is so much stigma or shame. And it's not even like a loud shaming. It's a quiet shame about having your monthly bleed. And there's a quiet shame about what happens during that monthly bleed. So you don't know how to even like word the questions or the concerns to your medical professional. You don't know, because you yourself have this little...
I was just going to say, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good.
I have hybrids. And after my second son, it was just awful. And I was doing the same thing as you, carrying around the stuff, having accidents, all the things. And the first thing I did after my hysterectomy, and I hope you treated yourself as well, is to buy all new underwear, new sheets, like just treat yourself, like really like give yourself some luxury.
Thank you. Yes. Because I've always had a pooch, so I never felt like very like cute or sexy.
Yeah.
But I really loved, for like as long as I can remember, jockey. This is so silly, but anyway. But I grew up watching a lot of 80s movies. So there was always like this really cute, slender chick who had these jockey French cut underwear on. And I mean, really, they look like granny panties, but whatever. That's despite what I'm saying is it was hot. Okay. And I was like, I want to be hot like her.
Yes.
And these French cut. So I did. I bought myself in advance, I bought myself a smaller size of jockey French cut cotton underwear.
Good for you.
Good.
Good for you.
Yeah. Buy some slender jeans so that way, like some Levi's, because that was like the thing, right? Was 501 jeans and these French cut undies. So I did. Love it. Thank you.
Good. But I love it. Say, like, I remember my ex saying to me, like, being in the store, and I was like, I gotta go. We have to go, like, right now. I have to go. And he was like, you're a grown woman. You can't, this isn't anything new. Like, blaming me that was the situation that was happening. And I remember I was so embarrassed. You talk about shame. Yeah. So.
Well, I'm glad you did that for yourself.
Oh, for sure. Heck yeah.
Who cares anyway? Move along.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Sure. Yeah. But I'm sure I'm not the only one that's probably ever experienced that feeling.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I feel like we've all gone through something along those lines.
Yeah.
We go through too much to not feel completely celebrated in our own bodies. Mm-hmm. So, and when I was teaching, I would teach some classes to Girl Scouts, and they were beauty classes. And I was like, beauty is way more than just makeup. So we're going to start with this. And I'd buy them all little mirrors. And I still try to remind myself to do this for myself. The first thing that you do is when you look in the mirror, first thing in the morning, and you could have dragon breath and all the things going on and your hair looking like you stuck your finger in a socket, but still take a moment to look in the mirror and say, hey, gorgeous, and really relish in that moment, because we do deserve to feel beautiful, sexy, brilliant, and thriving in our bodies. I mean, yeah, age takes some of the zest away, or the pep in the step, but even just that little bit will give you enough to carry on to the next task.
Absolutely. Yeah, we just need to be kinder to ourselves, and it's just a reminder we need to be kinder to ourselves, our bodies, our minds. On every level, we need to be kinder to ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, there's two things I was going to tell you earlier. So vitamin A is a big thing that we are not getting enough of as women. So if we find ourselves with some breakouts in the face, but more so heavy periods, fibroids, uterine issues, ovarian cysts as well, vitamin A.
Good to know.
And there's a book that's called The Hormone Shift. Not to plug someone, but the book is amazing, and I'm telling you to read it because it is. What I love about it is Dr. Batia says that, she was a pediatrician, moved on from pediatrics to integrative medicine, and then moved on from integrative medicine to Ayurveda and Chinese medicine. Her goal also, because she had her own issues working through menopause, she wanted to help tired women, and tired women oftentimes are having hormonal imbalances. So she's done amazing work. This book is amazing. It's called The Hormone Shift. I highly, highly, highly recommend. There are some little prompts in the book too that you can fill out. She goes from everything from pre-pubescence to adolescence and then on to 50s and above. How the body kind of moves, ebbs, flows, all the things. It is a beautiful, beautiful book. So I highly recommend to read. And vitamin A.
Thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Definitely want to share that with everybody listening, because I feel like we as women, we need as much info as we can get that will help our bodies. And I know all about the hormone stuff. They control everything. Yeah. And so I get it completely. Yeah. I'm so glad you joined us today.
Thank you.
You have something else to say?
I was just going to say, I would love to just put it out there that I'm open to helping and coaching any beauty professional who's behind the chair service provider, who's looking to maximize and optimize their health, starting with their gut. I'm happy to do Ayurvedic consultations with them and then also evaluate them so that way we can help create a plan that best suits you, that's not restrictive. I went through being restrictive and it's not fun. So I meet you where you're at. And I guide you through the process of learning how to talk to your body and your body talk, and really listening, and how to hear your body talk to you.
I love that. I love that. Thank you for that. You want me to close out?
Sure.
Thank you so much, Ashley, for being here with us. We are so thankful that you were brave enough to share your story and just be vulnerable and transparent with this topic. I know it's not easy to talk through, or talk about, but I wanted you to kind of tell everybody where they can find you, where they can follow you. And then also Ashley has a GoFundMe that somebody created for her because like she said, she has insurance for what happened, but she's out of work for all these weeks with no income coming in at all. So I know one of your friends created a GoFundMe for you. So I think that's on your page too. So if you want to go ahead and tell the listeners about that.
Yes. So I can be found at thebeautymedium.com, but my Instagram and where the GoFundMe lives is on Instagram at the Beauty Medium.
We'll tag it.
Handle is at the Beauty Medium. Yeah.
We'll tag it on the podcast too. So people, if you're on the podcast, just go ahead and click. And then you could also find it on Beauty for a Cause as well.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Add it on there too. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I'm glad we got to do this. And we got to do it face to face instead of just a phone call.
And your
like
story,
I said, I really appreciate you.
You told it very well. And I know that my screen was black for a little while. I listened to every single word. It was me.
Thank you.
So thank you for that.
Thank you. I think it would be, I'll send over some information, but there is a lot of statistics with hysterectomies, also unnecessary hysterectomies. And there are certain communities that are more affected than others, which is part of the reason why it took me so long to make the decision. It shows that as far as 2021, we were looking at hysterectomies for women. Asian non-Hispanic women were least likely to have a hysterectomy at 6.1%, followed by Hispanic, which was 12.5. White non-Hispanic were 15.6, and Black non-Hispanic women were 16.3%. So that means, that means that there are, on the other side of that spectrum, quite a few, the numbers are quite staggering. Women are having hysterectomies all the time. It is like one of the biggest money-making surgeries that is out there, aside from placenta donation.
You want to ask me how many hysterectomies I've had?
Hysterectomies? You had one, right? You had 2 uteruses?
I had an ovary grow back.
After a hysterectomy.
Shut the front door.
I had cancer on it at 36, had it removed when I thought, I had it removed. A fragment of it reattached, found blood supply, regained function, and I got cancer on it a second time. And I just had it removed in, when was it? September? August? September?
No, September.
Wow. Yeah. And then not only did they go in the first time they took the first ovary and then they realized that it had cancer. So then I had to go back in and have the second ovary removed. And then I lived like that for years. And then the issues that I was having last year, they kept telling me that I had cysts on my ovary. And I was like, ha ha ha, joke's on you. I don't have any ovaries. And they were like, yes, you do.
Yes, you do. Oh, wow. Oh,
that's crazy.
Less than 2% that happens.
My goodness.
So when you were talking about vitamin deficiencies and all that kind of stuff, like, I'm just like, I'm already cued into like knowing that I have a vitamin D deficiency. The other thing that I thought was really interesting about what you said is a lot of my issues have been in my sacrum. I've had the issues that I just talked about. I had 2 hip replacements. Like there's just been a huge emotional shift within my body because of all of this intrusiveness. So, I mean, I feel like it's just like almost like opened Pandora's box in a lot of ways. So I get, and I tell you all of this just because I want you to know that you are just so not alone in any of that. Like I understand everything that you talked about and that you said I feel your pain.
Well, thank you for sharing. But what?
I know.
When I said that women were Wonder Women or Super Women, I wasn't trying to say that.
Listen, I tell people it's my superhero. It's my superpower. I am a mad bee. I can regrow ovaries.
Yes, ma'am, you can.
You have to make a joke out of it. You have to like I said to you earlier, you have to find the silver lining in it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, if I didn't laugh about it, I would sit and literally cry
about it.
I'm with you. Yeah. 150,000%. Because that's how it's been too. I've just been like cracking jokes, and doctors and, nurses are like, "Is girl okay?"
You okay?
And I'm like, "Girl, look, I have to laugh or else I'll be in puddles."
Get one or the other.
Yeah. Right. Yes. Anyway, well, thank you all so much. I really appreciate you and your time. Thanks for listening. And Heidi, thank you for sharing. My goodness.
Well, thank you for sharing.
And I'll be, you'll definitely be in my prayers for absolute healing.
For sure. Thank you. All right, ladies.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. Stay in touch.
Sure.
Love you.
Love you. Bye, guys. Thanks for tuning in to Beauty, Brains, and Bullshit.
Hope you found some beauty, sparked your brain, and maybe even laughed at the bullshit along the way. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. It helps us to reach more listeners like you.
And remember, beauty is more than skin deep. Brains are always in style, and a little bit of real talk never hurt anyone. Until next time, keep shining, keep growing, and keep cutting through the noise. See you soon.